Hey YouTube family, it's Humberto from GrayLaw TV. Guess what? 4 employment-based interviews waived yesterday. In the mail comes the green cards, no interview. I told you before, I said, these interviews are being waived. It was good news. I said that weeks ago, and it's happening, folks. So perhaps if you have an employment-based petition, maybe even some family-based petitions, interviews are being waived. Number 2, been getting a lot of calls. Should I cash the stimulus checks? Yes. If you get a $1,200 check from the government, that means you work for it, you qualify for it, cash it. It's not going to negatively affect your immigration status down the line. Lots of calls on unemployment. Do I qualify for unemployment? Is it going to affect my immigration status? Absolutely not. It's not. The employer pays in for unemployment insurance. So it's taken care of, it's paid for. If you qualify, file for it, get the unemployment. Absolutely. What's the topic for today? I just wanted to give you a little bit of good news before I started the topic of today. Lots of questions regarding the executive order, the 60-day pause that was signed into effect April 23rd. It goes all the way until June 23rd. Who is affected? I've had a lot of persons, who hold green cards, and they're calling me and they're asking me whether or not their petitions are going to be affected. This only applies to those who are outside of the U.S. It doesn't apply to those who are inside the U.S. So if you have an adjustment of status that was pending, let's say you filed for advanced parole to travel outside of the U.S., you traveled out of the U.S., the pandemic hit, you got stuck, you couldn't get a flight back in. The question is, does this 60-day pause apply to me? No, it does not apply to you. You'll be able to come in. There's an exception carved out in the executive order that if you're already issued travel documents, you're able to come into the United States. The pause does not affect you. So once you can get a flight, you can get back in. Let's say you've had your interview at the U.S. consulate under a preference category petition, and you want to come back in the U.S. and the pandemic hit, you couldn't get a flight, okay? When things open back up, since that letter was already issued, there is an exception for you. You'll be able to come back into the U.S. without a problem. Who's affected by this 60-day pause? I call it a pause. Some people call it a travel ban. I call it a pause on adjudication of petitions because it's not necessarily a travel ban per se. It's a pause, okay? And who's affected by it? Let's go through the family preference categories that are affected by this 60-day pause. Family-based petitions in the first category. Those are unmarried sons and daughters of U.S. citizens. Second preference petition, 2 categories, 2A and 2B. 2A, spouses and children under 21 of permanent resident status holders, green card holders, okay? Third category, married sons and daughters of U.S. citizens. And the fourth category, siblings. Okay, these are the family preference categories that are affected by this pause. What it means is, let's say in any of these categories you have a petition that was filed in the U.S., it was approved, it went to NVC, and let's say now you're at the U.S. consulate, but your interview has not been scheduled, okay? As of April 23rd, you will not be able to be interviewed and obtain your green card, okay? So the pause will affect you. If you haven't had an interview at the U.S. consulate, you're going to have to wait. Immigration's going to reopen, okay? Now, I've also been asked, so are they going to extend this 60-day pause? I've heard on the Hill there's legislation in the Senate that are thinking about extending it, out about 6 months or so. I got to tell you guys, I don't think it's going to pass the House. The House is not going to have it. I'll bet my house on it. The House will not, no pun intended, the House will not pass such legislation. So you need not worry about it so much. Now, I always say from a practical standpoint, look, this is April 23rd to June 23rd. The State Department, the consulates are closed anyway. They indicated that they were going to be open on June the 5th. I doubt it. I think that date's going to be pushed further back, probably beyond June. So if the consulate's not open anyway, the ban's not going to affect you. But I think this whole thing is fluid, right? We have to keep you updated and let you know what's going on. All right. So I hope you guys are staying safe out there, my YouTube family. You guys are wonderful. We're trying to bring you, up-to-date news, a little bit of good news. We don't want just the bad news all the time, but we're going to get through this together. Hey, thanks for watching GrayLaw TV. Click below, like and subscribe.